I'm audible to you. Could you please confirm in the chat box that I'm audible to you so that I know I'm not talking to myself only? A simple yes would suffice.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can see 13 to 14 students that have joined in. So we'll commence the class. Unfortunately or fortunately, maybe you prayed so hard. Whatever the case was, the presentations they would have to go for the next week now because online presentations are no fun and there is no utility of it. So I've announced the new date for you as well. So keep that in mind. Other than that, we will have some time to finish the reading that we were doing the other day. I think on campus we were talking about Pygmalion and the related article. We were not still finished, but because time was short, so I told you to read it at your own. But since today we have time, so I'm going to read it with you so that you can understand how to and where to focus on. Other than that, today we'll also talk about which parts of the syllabus you should focus. Although I've been telling you simultaneously which part of the play has to be focused in each one of those, but today we'll have a fruitful discussion about that as well. Now, I would like to take you to your Google Classroom and show you once and for all, how your Google Classroom has been arranged so that you know. मैंने पहले भी आपको जरूर बताया होगा, but then there are some of you who are still very naive or new to how I have arranged your Google Classroom. Each play has been mentioned over here, right? And within each heading, you can see that I have posted some helpful material as well. For example, A Doll's House live performance has been attached. The original text is available, which is annotated as well. And then some study has been mentioned and introduction to the writer. Then Waiting for Godot is there, how it's an avant-garde play, existentialism, biblical symbols, text, and a helpful booklet has been mentioned. Yes, there are multiple books and informational handouts attached. This is for your reading, not for you to cram. आपके लिए नहीं, इसलिए नहीं लगाया कि आप रट्टा मार के पेपर में लिखेंगे, इसलिए है so that you can read and understand how and what to focus. For example, for Waiting for Godot, this handout is very important where it proves that how it is an avant-garde play and there are certain characteristics of a avant-garde play. What are these characteristics? As you can see, ostrich stage setting, tramps as protagonists, linguistic devices, and then static nature of the play. There is no coherence or traditional plot in it, and the structure. Now, what are these? You can definitely read further. You'll find out that Waiting for Godot is also a tragic comedy. And then what is ostrich setting? What are tramps? तो उसकी जो पॉसिबल एक्सप्लेनेशन है वो सब यहाँ पर आपको मिल जाएगी. इसमें आपको टेक्सचुअल एविडेंस भी मिलेगा विच इज इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर यू टू गो अबाउट इट. सो ये एक छोटा सा चैप्टर है, ये आपने पढ़ लेना है. दिस विल हेल्प यू टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर योर exam. Then the next chapter focuses on theater of absurd. I've also shared with you that what is theater of absurd and how it is correlated or interdependent with existentialism and avant-garde play as well. तो यहाँ पे critical analysis मिल जाएगा आपको. There is no other way but to read it बेटे, और इसका कोई जादू की छड़ी नहीं है. And I would not recommend you to read from or take help from or blindly trust an AI, because AI only gives you the information whatever you prompt at it, and prompt भी इतनी हमारी अभी clear नहीं है. Then themes and characterization is there. This is very important to read as well, that how certain themes are being represented. For example, Lucky's speech in Act 1 emphasizes. Now अब आप कहते हैं ना कि किस तरह से analytically लिखते हैं. This is how you write analytically. आप कैसे लिखते हैं? You simply write that Lucky's speech was there in Act 1, that in which he talked about this and that. That is okay, that is a known fact, but you have to mention कि वो क्या represent करता है. तो ये analytically बहुत अच्छे notes बने हुए हैं, ये आपने यहाँ से पढ़ लेने, so that you're prepared. और इसके अलावा बाकी स्ट्रक्चर है, प्ले है, वो आपने देख लेना है. देन सिंबल्स की बात हो रही है कि व्हाट सिंबल्स आर देयर. सो सम ऑफ द सिंबल्स आर मेंशन्ड सच एज symbolism is important. The tree is important. right? And then other than that, we have hat and boots as well, and the way the main character walks, ये सारा कुछ इसमें आपको important है. टेक्स्ट भी यहाँ पे mentioned है, आपको मैंने क्लास में भी टाइम दिया था कि आपके टेक्स्ट पढ़ लें. Pygmalion, on the other hand, this is quite easy, and I think we were talking about this handout on campus, and we were almost done with the sections. We talked about Bernard Shaw as a dramatist and how different dramas have been written by him, and then the Irish influence and social classes in Victorian period, and living classes, living conditions of working classes were there as well. Then we talked about Pygmalion effect and how Greek mythological Pygmalion king has been mentioned and how it is connected to the drama itself that we are going to read. Then Pygmalion effect has been mentioned as well. तो ये सारा कुछ आपको साइड बाय साइड बताया गया, लेकिन remember that these things are not sufficient. अब अगर आप पे there is a question that Pygmalion as a social play, तो ये सिर्फ एक introduction है बेटे. This is just an introduction. इसको आगे expand आपने खुद करना है, ठीक है? Then class struggle is there, और इसमें जो सबसे important बात है वो social values आ जाती हैं, and then identity and appearance आ जाती हैं. For example, Pygmalion explores how social identity is formed not only through one's way of speaking but also from the appearance as well. Like I told you in the class as well, that how the moment they changed the moment Professor Higgins changed her appearance, Eliza Doolittle's appearance, and the way she spoke, she was automatically and quickly accepted by the society. So that's important for social identity, that how our appearance and social identity is formed. One's physical appearance indicates his social class. In the opening scene of the play, any Victorian individual could know anyone from this, his clothing or their clothing. मैंने आपसे कहा था Victorian clothing भी आपने देख लेनी है. Moreover, the prejudgment from the appearance is a craft in the Victorian society. The mannerism, the hypocrisy, and the so-called table manners and clothes manners are very much heightened in Victorian age. Then Eliza Doolittle, who's the main character, and the gentleman, for example, easily know each other's status through their different attire. Professor और Eliza एक दूसरे को कैसे पहचानते हैं? That their attire, their clothing is different from each other. As Pickering comments in Act 4, many noble people believe that one's appearance displays one's natural identity and character, thinking that style comes by nature to people in their position. Now, this is a direct critique to the society that everybody judges every book by its cover. तो जैसे हमने पहले भी बात की थी कि Bernard Shaw is a social critique and he's definitely criticizing through this. So यहाँ पर ओवरऑल इस तरह से कंक्लूड हो रहा है. इसके अलावा एक और आर्टिकल यहाँ पे मैंने अटैच किया हुआ है जो बहुत अच्छे से आपको समझाता है कि जेंडर रोल्स कैसे यहाँ पर डाइसेक्ट होते हैं. और बेटे एक और होगा, यस, that how her character, Eliza Doolittle's character, is a representative of class struggle. तो ये यहाँ से आपने इसका एनालिसिस पढ़ लेना है. इन्होंने एनालिसिस बहुत अच्छा लिखा हुआ है. एनालिसिस स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम हियर, ठीक है. एंड देन दे टॉक अबाउट मार्क्सिस्ट अप्रोच. मार्क्सिस्ट अप्रोच क्या है वो भी यहाँ पर इन्होंने मेंशन की हुई कि मार्क्सिस्ट बिलीव दैट literature has a direct relationship to reality. Every story reveals something, which means that there is an agenda for doing something. So therefore, the Marxists saw literature as a byproduct of economic and ideological factors, right? So इस extinction approach को use किया गया for the analysis. अब देखिए, with textual reference, ये textual reference है, आगे explanation दी हुई है, फिर textual reference है, फिर explanation दी हुई है. तो ये आपने पढ़ लेना है तो आपके लिए बहुत clear हो जाएगा. The economy as a driving force in Marxist perspective, and how identity is made, exploitation of the lower by the upper class. अब देखें इस लाइन को देखें, what to become of her if I leave her in the gutter. Whatever Mrs. Higgins remarks about experiment of Higgins and Pickering on Eliza is carrying out their bed, that also shows exploitation of Eliza. Even though वो उस पर experiment कर रहे हैं और उसको elite class में लेके जा रहे हैं, लेकिन फिर भी उसको इसी तरह से ट्रीट किया जा रहा है. तो ये बहुत अच्छा है, ये आपके एनालिसिस के लिए आपको खुद ही पढ़ेंगे। देखिए कंक्लूजन कैसे लिखते हैं, आपको कंक्लूजन नहीं ना लिखना आता, टेक अ लुक ऑल द टेक्सचुअल एविडेंसेस। अब ये आप तभी कह सकते हैं जब आपने अपने एनालिसिस में टेक्सचुअल एविडेंस दिया होगा, अदरवाइज यू कांट से दिस। All the textual evidences taken from the play and analyzed in chapter etc. reveal class struggle emerges from class conflict between the elite and working class. The conflict occurs whenever the interests of two classes do not fit each other. Pygmalion is one Shaw's most popular plays, etc. It is the story of the transformation of a flower girl from a lower to an elite class. It employs Eliza Doolittle's struggle, a flower girl who wishes to, etc. आज मैं आपको ना इसकी एक्ट वाइज समरीज भी सुना देती हूँ, ताकि आपने खुद तो पढ़ ही लिया होगा, लेकिन if just in case you were not able to do so today, you'll be able to listen to it as well. और इसी एक और आर्टिकल भी होगा। अब आप कह रहे होंगे कि 3 आर्टिकल हो गए, ये बहुत ज्यादा हो गए। नहीं, ये ज्यादा नहीं हो गए, पढ़ने आपको पड़ेंगे। Now realism, that how realism is being depicted, the realistic implication of Pygmalion has been mentioned. Remember, like I told you, symbolism, realism, feminism, इसके अलावा subalternism, patriarchy, ये सारे terminology बेटे बहुत important है from the perspective of your final term examination. तो realistic representation, अब इस article में बहुत खूबसूरती से they have given you the background of Victorian age, that how Victorian age dictated that how people were supposed to behave and what they were supposed to do. तो ये बहुत 2-3 पेजेस का आर्टिकल है, ये आपने पढ़ लेना है। अब में से कुछ लोगों का क्वेश्चन था ना कि क्या क्या पढ़ना है, कैसे कैसे पढ़ना है, तो जो जिस पर्सपेक्टिव से क्लास में डिस्कशन हुई है बस वही आपने पढ़ लेना है, सो दैट यू आर रेडी फॉर इट। अब देखें इस आर्टिकल में भी यू कैन फाइंड द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ इंग्लिश ड्रामा फ्रॉम रिस्टोरेशन टू पीरियड बर्नार्ड शॉ। ये आपकी रीडिंग के लिए, जब आपने ये रीड किया होगा यू विल बी इन able to incorporate this information into your analysis in order to make your analysis strong। ठीक है, तो ये सारी चीजें आपने इसमें से पढ़ लेनी है। अब हम चलते हैं बेटे द पिग्मेलियन इफेक्ट। वैसे तो हमने कल या परसों जब भी हम मिले थे क्लास में वी डिड टॉक अबाउट इट, बट लेट्स क्लैरिफाई दिस वंस मोर in our mind कि पिग्मेलियन इफेक्ट क्या है and how it has been described
knew
and taken forward by
I
the
was underwater.
experts.
I just didn't realize I was this underwater.
Hello brain lovers, Gregory here from the Brain Academy. This is really exciting. Today I want to speak about one of my all-time favorite psychological Hello brain
Like I told you that it's a psychological perspective, so let's watch it together. It's a video by a professor. I don't know his name, but he'll introduce himself in the video as well. So let's watch it together.
lovers, Gregory here from the Brain Academy. This is really exciting. Today I want to speak about one of my all-time favorite
Is it audible and visible to you? Please, could you confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, yeah, chale.
psychological effects, the Pygmalion effect. Now, the Pygmalion effect comes down to this. My expectations of you will influence your behavior, which means if I believe you can do something, you'll be able to do it. Now, if I believe you will fail, guess what? You will fail.
Oh my gosh. Wow, wow, wow.
My childhood dream just came true. I have psychic powers! Okay, so before you think this is rubbish, number one, it's not. Number two, over 80% of the research studying the Pygmalion effect has established it did indeed happen. Three, there are some conditions here for it to work, which I will explain in this video. So I've talked about the Pygmalion effect before. It's a really important one, you know. I've detailed it both in my course on leadership and the one on parenting, because yes, those are the two main areas where together with sports, the Pygmalion effect shows up. But you can easily apply this to any relationship really. Yes, even with your partner. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So the Pygmalion effect was first established by Harvard psychologist Robert Rosenthal in 1964.
We teach more to those from whom we expect more. We're able to give them more information so that they are in fact able to do a better job.
He came with an interesting experiment where an IQ test was taken from kids in elementary school. Then he told the teacher which kids had the most potential to bloom that year.
Not a bad mind either. There's talent. Oh, yes, and a thirst to prove yourself.
And indeed they did. When Rosenthal came back at the end of the year, the kids he had pointed out did indeed show the biggest IQ gains. The thing is, the list with the kids with highest potential was fake. They had chosen the kids at random. These kids didn't have any more predisposition to any other kid in the class. The only variable that had changed was the expectations from the school teacher. Now that's remarkable, isn't it? Now the funny thing is, follow-up studies showed that it only works if the expectations are real.
He is the one.
If the teacher is in on it, it doesn't work. It has to be real. You can't fake the Pygmalion effect. If you think your kid is an idiot, it won't help to tell him he's a genius, because that's not how it works. This is not wishful thinking. You know, many parents are afraid to confront their kids with negativity. They fear that the negative emotions may harm them. And the Pygmalion effect could be misinterpreted in this context. You see, you have to remain positive, otherwise your kid will fail. Now yes, because the Pygmalion effect works both ways, right? If you think someone is not capable of doing something, he or she will fail. Anyway, so remaining positive at all costs is a common misconception. That's not what the Pygmalion effect is all about. It's not, hey honey, you ended 15, that's so great. No, it's, honey, I knew you could do it, and you did, you're first. It's not about finding excuses and giving a positive twist to things. It's about high performance based on high expectations.
You do those things!
Okay, there is a student who mentioned that the voice is not clear. Now that's all right, but I'll post the link as well. Just remember, he's trying to tell us that Pygmalion effect is something that comes from the both partners who are indulged in this learning process. It's a psychological thing. जैसे हम उर्दू में भी कहते हैं ना, otherwise भी कहते हैं कि अगर अच्छा सोचोगे तो अच्छा होगा, अगर बुरा सोचोगे तो बुरा होगा, and that is exactly what Pygmalion effect is. Psychologically, अगर मैं पहले ही सोच लूं that I won't be able to do a certain task, there is 90% chances that I won't be able to do so. So that's Pygmalion effect for you, जो कि एक psychological terminology है. ठीक है, तो ये मैं लिंक वहां पोस्ट भी कर दूंगी, आप वहां से दोबारा भी देख सकते हैं, नहीं तो ये आपके चैट बॉक्स में भी मैं पेस्ट कर रही हूँ, यहाँ से कॉपी भी कर सकते हैं. राइट, अब हम चलते हैं बेटे पिग्मेलियन प्ले पे और उसकी एक छोटी सी समरी देखते हैं. प्लॉट समरी. प्लॉट क्या है? What's a plot? In which we have exposition, then we have rising action, and then we have climax that leads to falling action, and then there is resolution. So in a quick video of 2 to 3 minutes, a professor will be explaining that how the plot of Pygmalion goes about and what you need to know about. ये सिर्फ कहानी है, ये सिर्फ आपको reinforce की जा रही है ताकि आपको कहानी पता हो, because some of you might not have read it yet, so it's important that you read. But remember that in an examination or in your exam, summary of the entire story is never asked and never required. ठीक है, लेकिन इसको समझेंगे तो ही आप analysis कर पाएंगे.
In the introduction of the play Pygmalion, a sudden downpour has pedestrians in Covent Garden sprinting for shelter or taxis. Beneath the portico of St. Paul's Church, a young Cockney flower girl, an older gentleman, and a man taking notes on the flower girl's speech are gathered. In the rising action, it becomes clear that the note-taking man is only interested in phonetically noting the flower girl's curbstone English. He boasts that he could teach her to speak like a duchess in 3 months. It turns out that he is the famous phonetician Henry Higgins. The elderly gentleman is Colonel Pickering, an admirer and fellow speech expert. Higgins invites Pickering to come around the next day to his home on Wimpole Street. The next morning, the flower girl, Eliza Doolittle, boldly shows up at Higgins's home, where she offers to pay him to teach her to talk more genteel. Pickering, who is present, says he will cover all expenses if, in 6 months, Higgins can pass Eliza off as a lady. Higgins accepts the bet and begins tutoring Eliza in speech and manners. Months later, Higgins takes Eliza on a surprise visit to his mother, an intelligent and dignified lady. It's a test of her newly learned skills. Eliza now looks and acts the part of a fine lady, but her vocabulary and unfortunate choice of topics gives away her humble beginnings. With some difficulty, Higgins covers her gaffes while Freddie is smitten with Eliza. Overall, the test is a marginal success. Later, Mrs. Higgins scolds her son and Pickering both for treating Eliza like a doll, especially for not considering what will happen to Eliza when the experiment is over. Months later, after Eliza has honed her skills, Higgins and Pickering put Eliza's talents to the test, and she performs flawlessly. Back at the Wimple Street Laboratory, Higgins and Pickering congratulate themselves on their victory. With no thought of Eliza, they dismissively proclaim the experiment over. Higgins starts upstairs, but then returns to get his slippers and finds Eliza weeping with rage. In the play's climax, Eliza is enraged by Higgins' insensitivity. She won his bet for him, and now she thinks that he will toss her back into the gutter. The stormy scene ends with Higgins slamming the door and leaving. In the falling action, Higgins learns Eliza is, in fact, staying with his mother, who defends Eliza's choice to leave him and Pickering. A calm, composed Eliza comes downstairs and greets the men, thanking Pickering for treating her with respect from the very beginning. But she says she no longer needs Higgins, and she will not come back. Higgins accuses her of ingratitude, but still holds out hopes for her return. In the resolution, Eliza leaves. Higgins remains unsure about whether or not she is gone for good.
Now, I hope that you can understand that, of course, one person can be taken out from their conditions to another kind of conditions, but it's not a necessity that they will survive. And the fact that Mrs. Higgins, who's the mother of Professor Higgins, is very sensitive about it, and she does say that what will become of Eliza Doolittle. I'm calling her Eliza so that you don't make spelling mistake, लेकिन पाकिस्तानी Eliza के spelling मत लिख देना, because I've had experiences जहाँ पे नोरा को लोगों ने नोरीन लिखकर मुझे सबमिट करवाया हुआ है. तो बेटे ऐसी मिस्टेक्स नहीं करनी, ठीक है? ना तो ये एलिजा है हमारी और ना ही वो नोरीन है, ठीक है? इसको एलाइजा पढ़ रहे हैं वो. प्रोनाउंसिएशन डजंट मैटर, आपने इसकी जो स्पेलिंग है वो करेक्ट लिखनी है. तो यू सी रियलिस्टिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो है, बट रियलिस्टिक आउटकम नहीं है. नाउ विल गो इनटू डिटेल एक्ट वॉइस, बिकॉज इस तरह से आपको ये थोड़ा बहुत याद रह जाएगा कि व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन द एंटायर प्ले. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू टेक अ लुक एट ऑन एक्ट 1 ऑफ द प्ले. प्ले आपको समझ आ जाना चाहिए अब तक. अब एक्ट 1 देखते हैं.
In Act 1 of Pygmalion, in Covent Garden, a district of London, a torrent of rain sends people hurrying for shelter under the portico of St. Paul's Church. Among them are a finely dressed lady and her daughter, who have been to the theater and now seek a taxi to take them home. Another is a man writing in a notebook. The lady's son, Freddie, rushes in, saying no cabs are available. Impatiently, his mother sends him back out to try again. As he sets off, he runs right into a dirty, disheveled girl selling flowers, sending her flower basket flying. He apologizes and dashes off, leaving her to pick up scattered flowers. Despite the objections of the lady's daughter, the lady pays the girl for the 2 bunches of ruined violets. Then, an elderly gentleman dressed in evening clothes hurries in out of the rain and pauses near the flower girl, who tries to sell him some flowers. He gives the girl 3 halfpence, or halfpennies, and walks off. A bystander warns the girl that there's a man eavesdropping and taking down her every word. He may be a detective. Panicked that she will be accused of soliciting for prostitution, the girl hysterically confronts the note-taker, who dismisses her fear, saying, "Oh, shut up, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?" Bystanders erupt in defense of the frightened girl, and things get a little hostile, while the note-taker begins identifying where various speakers come from based on their speech. But tensions ease when the note-taker turns his trick on the elderly gentleman, and then on the lady and her daughter. The note-taker brags to the elderly gentleman that he could make a duchess of the flower girl by teaching her to speak properly. Then the rain stops and nearly everyone disperses. Only the elderly gentleman, note-taker, and flower girl remain. The men, it turns out, share a common interest in language and have been intending to seek each other out. The elderly gentleman is Colonel Pickering, a student of Indian dialects, and the author of Spoken Sanskrit. The gentleman is Professor Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet. Higgins invites Pickering around to his home the next day, and the two men depart for a chat over some supper. Higgins tosses a handful of coins in the flower girl's basket as he leaves. It's a fortune by her standards. When Freddie pulls up in a taxi for his mother and sister, who have taken the bus, she takes it off his hands and heads home in style. Act 1 introduces the play's three main characters, establishes the central premise of the play, and provides social context for the events that will unfold.
So you see, now they have given detailed analysis of first act, what happens and how you can take these incidents into consideration while doing the analysis. Of course, summary again is not required, लेकिन इन scene से related आप वहाँ से textual evidence definitely pick कर सकते हैं. The second act is, yeah.
In Act 2 of Pygmalion, the next morning, Pickering visits Higgins at his home and laboratory on Wimple Street. As the professor drones on about the various devices he uses to study speech, his housekeeper, Mrs. Pierce, announces the arrival of a young woman. She is quite a common girl with a dreadful accent who insists on seeing Higgins. Immediately, he recognizes the flower girl from the night before and tells her to go away. But the flower girl, whose name is Eliza, stops him with the revelation that she has come for speech lessons and to pay for them too. Eliza aspires to become a lady in a flower shop, but says, "They won't take me unless I can talk more genteel." She reminds Higgins of his claim that he could even teach her and offers him $1 an hour to do so, a substantial sum for a person with her income. The challenge intrigues Higgins, and Pickering says he'll pay for the lessons if Higgins succeeds, and count him the greatest teacher alive. Higgins accepts the wager, vowing in 6 months to make a duchess of this draggle-tailed gutter snipe. He tells Mrs. Pierce to find a room for Eliza to stay in, to give her a bath, burn her clothes, and order new garments. Mrs. Pierce chides Higgins for thinking he can take a girl up like that as if you were picking up a pebble on a beach. When she tells Eliza to go home to her parents, Eliza confesses they have turned her out to earn her own living. While Eliza bathes, a man claiming to be Eliza's father visits Higgins and Pickering. He is Alfred Doolittle, a mean scoundrel who has come to ask Higgins for money in exchange for Eliza. Higgins is struck by Doolittle's natural gift of rhetoric and shocked by his lack of morals. Higgins gives the man money, and as he leaves, he encounters a young Japanese lady in a blue kimono. He is astonished to discover that she is actually Eliza, with the last word of advice to Higgins to take a strap to her if he wants her mind improved. Alfred Doolittle departs. Eliza is pleased to see her father go. Her new clothes arrive, and in delight, she rushes to try them on. Higgins and Pickering can see that they have their work cut out for them. Act 2 sets up the experiment that will raise Eliza from low class to upper class. Higgins takes on the challenge of turning Eliza into a lady without thought of what it will mean to Eliza. The prospect fascinates him, and Pickering is similarly interested, though he views Eliza as a person and treats her kindly. He acts as a foil for Higgins. His respectful demeanor and consideration for Eliza counterbalances Higgins' rudeness and insensitivity.
So now we have more information that what is happening and how Eliza has been treated in the hands of Professor Higgins. Moving forward to act number 3.
In Act 3 of Pygmalion, the story moves to the elegantly furnished drawing room at the home of Higgins's mother. It's Mrs. Higgins's day for receiving visitors, and she is not pleased when her son bursts in without warning. He lacks social graces and tends to insult her guests. Higgins surprises her with news that he has asked the common flower girl, whom he has taught to speak properly, to come to see her. Her pronunciation is quite good, he explains, but she still needs to learn what to talk about. He hopes his mother can help. Mrs. Higgins's other guests arrive, and among them is the genteel lady from Act 1 who purchased the flowers spoiled by her son, Freddie. Freddie is also present, as is Pickering and the daughter of Mrs. Higgins. Pickering is the last to arrive before Eliza makes her entrance. Elegantly dressed, Eliza creates an impression of exceptional beauty and sophistication, perfectly articulating her greetings. As Mrs. Higgins later comments, Eliza is a triumph of her son's and her dressmaker's art. Eliza soon slips into an unsuitable family tale of a pinched straw hat, a suspected murder, and some gin drinking. Higgins passes it all off as the new small talk. Freddie, however, is captivated by her loveliness and odd ways. Once alone with Higgins and Pickering, Mrs. Higgins passes judgment on Eliza, saying she's not presentable and reveals her low status. She chides both men for treating Eliza like a live doll. The result of teaching Eliza to look and sound like a fine lady will likely leave her caught between two worlds, one in which she still needs to earn a living, the other in which her new status disqualifies her from doing so. Both men completely miss the point. Then they leave with plans to take Eliza to a Shakespeare exhibition. Alone with her frustration, Mrs. Higgins cries out, "Oh, men, men, men!" Mrs. Higgins's home is the perfect setting for Eliza's big test. In her clothing and mannerisms, the flower girl has made great strides, especially her perfectly articulated speech. However, her choice of topic hardly matches either her exquisite appearance or language, especially her use of the word bloody, a word considered obscene in Shaw's time. Also, a relationship forms here between Freddie and Eliza. He is smitten with her beauty and unconventional ways. His adoration will become a source of comfort for Eliza and of irritation for Higgins.
Okay, now the final act.
In Act 4 of Pygmalion, it's midnight, and Eliza, Higgins, and Pickering are returning to Wimple Street after the successful final test of Eliza's skills. At home, complaining that he cannot find his slippers,
Is it audible and visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
he takes no notice when Eliza finds and places them before him and continues to sound off about the party. He's glad it's over and labels the whole experiment as a bore and simple purgatory. When Higgins and Pickering leave the room, Eliza bursts into tears of rage. Moments later, Higgins returns, once more searching for his slippers, and she throws them at him with all her strength. She has won his bet for him, and now he has no more use for her. Higgins attempts to persuade her that she is tired and suffering from a case of nerves. She's now free and can do as she likes. Gradually, he understands that she has no idea what she is fit for or what will become of her. He clumsily suggests that she could find a rich man to marry who will take care of her, a solution Eliza rejects. Refusing to take the problem seriously, Higgins starts off for bed. He stops when Eliza quietly asks who her clothes belong to. She wants to know what she can take with her, as she doesn't want to be accused of stealing. She hands him the jewels he rented for her, along with the ring he bought her. She tells him she doesn't want the ring anymore. Dashing the ring into the fireplace, Higgins storms out and slams the door. In the morning, Eliza decides to visit Mrs. Higgins and ask her advice about what she should do. In this act, the evening's success is the culmination of all Eliza and Higgins have worked to achieve. Yet the turning point in the play occurs after the victory. Eliza's months of tireless study and fine performance were a success, but they go unacknowledged by Higgins and are barely touched upon by Pickering. The professor still sees Eliza merely as a way of proving his theory about language and his genius as a teacher. But that's not how Eliza feels. Angry and frustrated, she thinks Higgins has no further use for her and will abandon her, throwing her into the street just as her father and stepmother had done. She has had a taste of life as a lady and acquired all the necessary attributes. Her dreams have grown beyond merely working in a flower shop. Higgins has viewed Eliza as his creation, and he has imposed only superficial changes, language, clothing, and manners upon her.
Now the last act is there that I need to share with you. This was the fourth one. Let me
Come
share
forth,
it.
Karao. Garmi bujao.
In Act 5 of Pygmalion, the next day, Mrs. Higgins is in her drawing room when the parlor maid announces that Higgins and Pickering are downstairs phoning the police about Eliza's disappearance. Mrs. Higgins sends the parlor maid upstairs, where Eliza has taken shelter, to tell Eliza to wait there until she is sent for. Mrs. Higgins chastises her son and Pickering for their thoughtless treatment of the girl, but the arrival of Alfred Doolittle cuts the scolding short. He enters dressed as a bridegroom in the height of fashion and in a highly agitated state, and immediately accosts Higgins. Doolittle explains that Higgins's offhand remark in a letter to a rich gentleman has delivered him into the hands of middle-class morality. The gentleman died and left Alfred Doolittle a generous yearly pension. Now, his happy days are over as one of the undeserving poor. Mrs. Higgins reveals that Eliza is upstairs. Mrs. Higgins again reproaches her son and Pickering for their callous conduct the night before. Eliza enters, looking coolly self-possessed, and politely greets the two men. She thanks Pickering for treating her well and showing her respect. Higgins' arrogant, ill-mannered reaction to this prompts Alfred to make his presence known to Eliza. After an awkward moment, she agrees to come along to see him married. For a few moments before leaving, Eliza and Higgins are left alone. Higgins tries to convince her that he did not treat her any differently from anyone else, that he treats everyone rudely, and then softens a bit and tells her that he will miss her if she leaves. Knowing Higgins will never change, Eliza hints that she may marry Freddie and support them both by teaching phonetics, possibly as an assistant to a rival of Higgins. Outraged, Higgins grabs her and threatens to wring her neck if she does. He sees something in Eliza that he has overlooked until now. Eliza is a tower of strength, a consort battleship. As the play closes, Eliza seems set on a path away from Higgins. But Higgins remains cheerfully confident that she will return to Wimple Street and continue to be part of his life. A play's resolution, or denouement, usually ties up all the loose plot threads and answers any lingering questions. But the question of Eliza's future is left unanswered. Eliza declares her independence from Higgins, says goodbye for the last time, and sweeps out of the room. Yet Higgins is confident that she will return. The resolution, then, is left up to audience members and depends upon their interpretation of events. The final act also raises a fresh question. Now that she is a lady, is Eliza really better off?
So you see, this is how social critique could be there, that even if you take people out of their actual scenario and their situation, are they ready to embrace their new personality or identity? जो आपकी original identity है वो हमेशा वहाँ रहेगी. No matter how hard you try to fake it until you make it, you still would be somehow bound to your originality, and that is the question that is left for the audiences by the end of the play. So I hope you have understood the play. The summary is clear now. Now go ahead, read the article that I've posted in your Google Classroom. And if you have any questions, you may ask. I am definitely connected. I would highly recommend that you read this article. Let me show you which article it is. आप इसको ओपन करके पढ़ना स्टार्ट करें, और अगर इसमें कोई बात ऐसी है जो समझ नहीं आ रही, so you can ask. That is realism in Pygmalion. ठीक है, यहाँ से आप पढ़ना शुरू करें. कि इसमें कैसे रियलिज्म को वो बता रहा है. टाइटल के बारे में बता रहा है that how there are different endings and everything. So go ahead, read it. If you find anything difficult, you may ask. Meanwhile, I've taken your attendance through the video. I can see 28 participants. तो फिर एंड पे दोबारा भी हो सकती है अटेंडेंस. तो तब तक आप ये पढ़ लें.